Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 195, which I am titling Petty Pity Party. How's that for alliteration? So, where do I begin with this one? My friends, I have been very grumpy this weekend. I think I've probably spent a little bit too much time on Facebook after a week of really difficult stories on NPR, and I'm studying for the menopause certification test with this big giant textbook. There's a lot going on. And just found myself getting more and more irritable over this weekend and really just kind of stuck in it, especially all day today. Now, I'm allowed to be in a bad mood. You're allowed to be in a bad mood. It happens. But it was really wearing on me and wearing on the people around me. And one of those moments where you just kind of don't know what to do. So I was doing my normal thing, which is going from task to task to task. Now, who can relate to that? And just, I don't know, really leaning into kind of self-martyrdom. My husband offered to do something, asked what he could do to help. And I was like, nothing, I got it. Just move out of the way. Now, that's very conditioned response for me, but it wasn't doing me any favors. It certainly wasn't doing him any favors. And I just was kind of tired of it. And as I'm saying this, I'm hearing my kids fight about who gets to go first for the shower, because that's real life, my friends. But so here I am, feeling grumpy. Thankfully, everyone was out of the house and I was on my own. And I decided, I don't want to stay stuck in this. I could continue to stay stuck in this, but it's Sunday afternoon. We got Monday. It's a busy week. I got a lot on the schedule. I don't want to stay stuck in this, but what to do next? And so I decided, all right, well, what would you do if you were coaching somebody through this, right? Now, I am a normal human. I do not like using all the tools on myself. And it is very easy to gaslight yourself with coaching tools. Didn't want to do that. Didn't want to sit down with a book. I was doing some things in the kitchen and I thought, you know what? I got the house to myself. I am just going to talk this thing out loud. I considered dictating into some kind of a notes app or ChatGPT or whatever. I thought, no, I don't even need to do that. Right now, I just want to say things out loud. And so this is what I did. First, I named the emotions, and there were a lot of them. I think that the grumpy really was a mixture of anxiety, fear, worry, stress over, I'm going to pass this test. A little despondent about the state of the world right now, right? There's a lot of really rough things going on. Fearful, right? Mad. There were a lot of emotions, and it was helpful to name them out loud. Now, am I going to decide that hormonal is an emotion? Let's go ahead and call that, right? Still a little hormonal too, right? Not immune to that either. I do realize I've been telling myself a story that because I have started on perimenopause hormones, somewhere in my brain I decided, no, you shouldn't feel hormonal because you're taking care of it. My friends, that is not true. Anyway, we'll throw that into the bucket. So name the feelings, right? What are the emotions? Figure out the emotions word. If you need help, you can pull up a big list of emotions on the internet. You can pull out an emotions wheel, right? Which has all the different affects. This is called affect labeling. If you do a lot of mental health, if you have been to a therapist, if you have read psychology, you have probably encountered this. But when we actually name the emotions, we can sort of separate ourselves from it a little bit, right? And it helps even more if you can just acknowledge, instead of saying, I'm mad, I feel mad. I feel so mad, right? Separating yourself, recognizing that you are in a state of feeling. There's nothing wrong with that feeling. It's just a feeling that you're having, but name it, right? Name it to get it outside. So what did I do next? So step 2 is thinking, what is this about? All right, here's a big list of emotions. Here's a big list of all the ways that I'm feeling cantankerous. All of the things that are, kind of swirling through this not feeling well. What are they about? This is where I just started dropping thoughts and I just started naming things that I was feeling pissy about. This is where the petty pity party comes into play because I just let it go. I didn't censor myself. Nobody was in the house, right? I didn't turn on my phone. I didn't record it anywhere because I didn't feel like I needed to. But I just started saying out loud things that I was upset about. I acknowledged the stress that I was feeling about, needing to pass another test, guys. How many tests have we have to do in our lives? Thinking about what is going to happen in the world, what is going to happen with vaccines. There are a lot of things going on right now, and it is a little hard to hold them all. But just being allowed to name them. I express my frustrations with people in my life. I express frustrations with people that are not at all in my life, but people that I've been reading about. Just letting myself let it out. And there is catharsis in that, but it takes us to the next thing. So whatever way you want to let the thoughts out, this could be a brain dump on paper. This could be sitting in your car and doing exactly as I'm talking to you about and just letting yourself word vomit, right? It could be that you dictate it into some app in your phone or ChatGPT or something. You could probably turn this into some kind of fun, AI thing where you take this list and you have AI make it funny. I don't know. You could do a lot of different things, but the point is just to let it out. I was in a group coaching call last week, and one of the things that we did was we just practiced saying words out loud. And one person needed to just watch, one person needed to listen but couldn't see. And it was just an exercise in allowing ourselves to just get things out. And I won't describe it more than that, but it was very freeing to just talk and to know that these two people were holding space for me. So let the things out of you. Let it be petty. Let you be full of self-pity and whatever it is that you feel like you are needing. Let it out. All right. Then what comes next? What's next is deciding what you want to feel about your feelings and your thoughts, or better said, right? What things are you okay with and what things are you not okay? So as I was going through and thinking about the things that I was feeling upset about, the things that I was feeling stressed or worried about, some of the things completely okay. I am okay with feeling very upset and worried about what is going to go on with vaccines. I give vaccines to people every single day. I'm not worried about it because I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about it because I'm worried about people getting sick. I'm worried about kids coming down with diseases that I've never seen. I have seen measles a couple times. I've not seen polio. I've seen post-polio. I've not seen polio, right? There are some real concerns. I'm okay with being upset at it. Now, I don't want to live in that upset because that's not very useful, but I took the time to acknowledge it is okay for me to feel pissed off and worried about that. I am giving myself complete permission. There were other things on the list that I decided I was completely okay with the feeling that was coming up. There were some other things that I decided not to judge myself for, but I also didn't want to continue to sit in it. I didn't want to continue to sit and be pissy with my husband. Now, we've been married a long time. We have a great relationship. I'm allowed to get pissed off at him. He's allowed to get pissed off at me. Piss is just the word for the day, my friends. But I didn't want to stay in that. That wasn't going to create anything good for my evening. I've been there, I've done that. I didn't want that to be the case. I didn't want that to be the case at dinner time. I didn't want to be going to bed with that, right? I was able to sort of work my way through this process and just think, all right, here are the feelings, here are the thoughts, and here's what I'm going to decide about the thoughts. Now, I don't have to judge myself and make myself wrong for having been sort of pissy and irritable. That's not going to be helpful, and that's probably just going to trigger some shame. Don't need to do that, right? This is where we can use the tools against ourselves. That is not helpful. But what I can do is say, all right, you're feeling irritated by some things that he's trying to do. That's okay. It's okay, but we're not going to stay stuck in that. It is not helpful. I don't want to be irritable with my kids. That isn't doing us any good either, right? Now, am I annoyed sometimes? Of course I'm annoyed sometimes, right? I'm human, right? But I don't want to stay stuck in that. And throughout the day, right, I just been staying stuck, and every little thing, I was just letting it stack up. This was the process of letting it out, deciding that, you know what, I don't want to stay in this energy. I reserve the right to feel totally fine with how I feel about these things over here. I can decide over here that I want to let this go. I knew that I wanted to have a better evening than what it was looking like if I stayed stuck in that. And I said, this is just the process that we're doing today to kind of get through this. Again, naming the feelings, letting the thoughts dump out of my mouth, right? And deciding how I wanted to feel. Now, there was another thing that was going on, and let me unpack this one for you a little bit. Now, when we are stressed, there are behaviors that we do over and over again, right? I can recognize that staying in pissy mode is a behavior of mine. I also know very well that turning to food is another thing that I would do. And there were a couple times throughout the day where I saw myself, figuring out, oh, well, it's all right. It's okay that you're feeling, irritable, because you can just go and have that later. You could just go and we can go and run this errand and we can go get that thing. And again, there was a part of me that was just like, yep, you can do that. You can do that. You're a grown up. You can decide to do that. Is that what you want? Is that really going to help you feel better? Right? I'm at Whole Foods. I'm staring at the cookie display, thinking, should I get a cookie? Would that make this feel better? My friends, I know it wasn't going to make anything feel better. Now, would it have been wrong for me to get a cookie? No. Was it going to help me feel better? Also, no. Was that going to add to the experience of getting to feel better? No. This was before I decided that I needed to snap myself out of it. But I also decided, I was like, you know what? We're not going to do this right now. You can choose to have something later. I'm not even a cookie person, to be quite honest. Ice cream is my jam. And I thought, yeah, this isn't going to work. But as I was going through the process later, as I was deciding what I did and didn't want to keep, what I did and didn't want for the rest of the day, I decided that, you know what? We have been talking about going for ice cream. Going for ice cream randomly on a Sunday night as a surprise would feel kind of delightful. That would feel delightful to me because, my friends, I love ice cream. It would feel delightful to my kids because it would be an out of nowhere surprise. And in that, I also decided, as I was working my way through the feelings and through the thoughts, you know what? Ice cream is not going to feel very good to do if you're feeling pissy. So let's keep working the process and get ourselves through this. That was kind of a long tangent, but if you are someone who frequently turns to your phone, to ice cream, to wine, to any number of substances or behaviors to try and help yourself feel better, you know and I know that those things don't really help us. Is it wrong to seek comfort? Is it wrong to seek novelty or entertainment, right? That dopamine that we seek, it is not wrong. But what is the net result? Can you come up with something that's different, something that is going to ultimately be more satisfying? This was an example of me doing that. I'm glad I did because we went for ice cream and it was delicious. So, all right, so let's go through what we've covered already. So we name the feelings. We let ourselves thought dump and just word vomit it out. Again, you could write it out. You could do a little ChatGPT action or dictate it into your notes app. If you wanted to, you can get out pen and paper and sit and let yourself write out the thoughts. I would encourage you to not edit. I would encourage you to be as petty as you feel like you need to be because, my friends, again, this is a petty pity party or a pity petty party, whatever way you want to go, right? We are trying to let the little naggy stupid stuff out or the big awful terrible scary stuff, right? We want to let it out because we are done with it living inside of us. We are literally trying to kind of move it out of our body. Okay, so let it out. Then we're deciding what we want to do. Do we want to say, I am okay with being upset about this thing? And maybe I'm not okay with staying upset about this other stuff. Me feeling stressed about, an upcoming exam. Now, on the one hand, I'm definitely a procrastination studier. I don't like studying. I like learning. I don't like studying, right? And I know that to some extent, some of the stress and worry that I feel about passing or not passing the test, some of that is fueling me to sit down and study. Some of it is not. Some of it is getting in the way, right? And so deciding, all right, that's a little too much. That's a little too much worry. Reminding myself, you know what? You haven't failed anything like that before. And if you do, what is the consequence? The consequence if I fail this test is that I need to pay another, I don't know, $300 to take it again. It's not that big a deal. Not that big a deal. I am not unemployable. You are not unemployable, right? It doesn't really matter that much. Now, of course, there are other things that do matter a whole lot, right? I would still argue that probably an unnecessary degree of worry is common and not that helpful, right? We have to decide, what are we going to be okay with? What are we going to do in the moment? All right. So we've gone through that. After all of these things, I didn't want to leave it in that energy. So my final step there was naming what was good. So I started saying out loud things that were going well, things that I was grateful for, things that I appreciated, right? I wanted to say those things out loud. And that was very helpful. I expressed gratitude for my husband, who loves me very much, who was trying to help me feel better, who has lived with me long enough to know that probably the right thing to do was to leave the house. I love you. He's never going to listen to this, so that's just going out into the ether. I did give him a hug. I did make it up to him. But the point is, I went through and I named the things out loud that I was grateful for. I named the things that were good so that I could remember and sit with those things. I named that I was happy that we live within walking distance of a fantastic ice cream place in Seattle. Thank you, Molly Moon. Really happy about that. I named that I was happy to, live in a place, in a house, and be able to work and do things that I find meaningful. Grateful for what I have, grateful for the good things in the world. Now, I couldn't do that at the beginning, right? We weren't going to start this whole deal with gratitude. But in allowing myself to name the feeling, which allows me to get some separation from the feelings, right? And a thought dump, and to acknowledge and validate myself, right? Because even in the feelings that I decided I needed to make some change, I wasn't judging myself for having the feelings. I was validating it's totally okay. It's totally okay for me to feel annoyed, irritable, whatever. Whatever I was feeling, I just don't want to stay stuck in it, right? That is very different from feeling like I'm a terrible person for feeling irritable or stuck or annoyed, right? I don't have to judge myself there. And, when we have gone through this process, my body felt lighter, right? Things didn't feel quite so heavy. So that's a great time to pull in the good stuff. If we do not intentionally think about the things that we're grateful for, think about the things that are good and going well, think about the wins that we're having, we do not notice them because our brain has that automatic negativity bias that has been well studied, well documented. You know it, I know it, right? We have a differential diagnosis running all the time of all the things that are going wrong. What are the worst case scenarios? How do we help ourselves, right? So we need to spend some time actually thinking about the good things, actually thinking, all right, what am I grateful for? What is going well? Who can I hug, right? To spend some time in that energy. Now, do I magically feel ecstatic and like I'm going to an actual party? No, I don't. Do I feel better? I sure do. I sure do. And I want to share that process with you because we can feel like, you know what? I just don't know what to do. I'm too stuck in myself, and we need to have tools. We need to have practical things that we can do to pull ourselves out. Now, do I wish that I had turned to this a little bit earlier in the day? Yeah, I do. I do. It probably would have been a better day. It wasn't a terrible day, but I probably could have avoided some of what I was feeling. Did I do that? No, I didn't. Could I do better next time? Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Having a process to go through allows us the opportunity to tune in, to acknowledge the feelings, to validate ourselves, right? And to decide, all right, I hear you. This is how you're feeling. These are the petty thoughts going through your head. What do you want to do now? I think so often we don't validate our feelings. We don't name them. We don't notice them. We don't tell ourselves that it's okay to feel that way, right? We shove it down or we judge ourselves, and we need to let that go. So this is a process that you can use when you need to do that. We are done with ignoring our feelings. We are done with telling ourselves that our feelings don't matter or judging ourselves for thoughts that are petty. We all have thoughts that are petty. Now, are you going to run this process in the middle of your clinic day? Probably not. I would argue, I bet you could do this, at whatever lunch break in air quotes here that you have. I think you could. I think you could help yourself to have a better afternoon if you needed to. Have I done this to myself? Let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure I could tell you if I've ever done this in the middle of a full clinic day. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. You could do it. But what is important is that you have things you can do when you notice, yeah, I'm just staying really stuck. I'm staying really stuck in this negativity. What do I got to do? Because it doesn't feel good. I threw the petty pity party in there because sometimes when we're really stuck in negative energy, we can feel like we're being very petty. We can feel like we should snap out of it, like we should be above it. And again, my friends, that's just not true. We're humans. We have the full panoply of human emotions. We need to be able to express ourselves. We need to be able to feel validated and heard. And sometimes we're going to be the person who validates and hears ourselves. I'm a big advocate for therapy and coaching. I'm a big advocate for having friends and family. It might not be every friend. It might not be all of your family. It might not be, blood relative family. But having people that you can turn to for support who can be a safe place for you to let it all out, but also let us be a safe place for ourselves. My friends, I'm going to leave it at that for today. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I'm pretty sure it's going to be helpful to me because I feel like I'm probably going to be able to sleep well tonight, which I don't think probably would have happened if I had stayed stuck. So until next week, take care.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.